cold hours hold me still tonight. They wrap me in their brittle light. The room is silent, barely warm, a shelter from the storm. The window gathers drops of frost, like fragments of the things I've lost. And in the hush that fills the air, I find my old despair. The quiet feels so real, it numbs what I can't heal. The cold hours hold me still against my drifting will. They show me where my shadows lie beneath the distant sky. The cold hours hold me close to every ache I chose. They keep the truth within their grip and press it to my lips. The night grows deeper by the breath, a lullaby of death, not ending life but ending lies. That day keeps in disguise. I trace the empty space beside a memory I deny. And though the dark is hard to face, it gives me quiet grace. The air becomes a friend, too frozen to pretend. The cold hours hold me still when nothing else can fill the hollow in my fragile chest that never got to rest. The cold hours hold me tight inside their fading light. They whisper truths I used to fear, but now I wanna hear. And maybe this is where I learn that pain can still return, but not to break, not to destroy, but clear what I avoid. The cold hours hold me still until I start to feel the beating heart beneath the ache that only love can wake. The cold hours hold me slow and somehow let me grow into someone who dares to feel what cold hours help reveal. The night remains, the world is chill. The cold hours hold me still.
Tonight I found a warmth within, a quiet glow beneath my skin. A tiny spark I thought had died, still flickering inside. The room was dim, the shadows long, yet something in me felt less wrong. A pulse I lost in darker days returned in trembling waves. It rose without a sound and held me safe and bound. The warmth I didn't know I kept awoke the tears I never wept. It filled the coldness in my bones and softened all my tones. The warmth I didn't know I kept through every night I slowly crept. It stayed when everything had left. A quiet, gentle theft. The hours passed like drifting snow. so slow they hardly seem to go. Yet in that stillness I could hear a voice from yesteryear. It told me I was not undone, that healing doesn't need to run, that even when the nights are deep some lights refuse to sleep. The glow began to rise like dawn in tired eyes. The warmth I didn't know I kept came back from where it slept. It reached into my fragile past and held it soft and fast. The warmth I didn't know I kept was something my own heart had left, a gift I made but never saw, a truth without a flaw. And maybe warmth survives the cold in ways that can't be told. It hides inside the cracks of pain until it blooms again. The warmth I didn't know I kept embraced the part of me that wept. It filled the spaces I once feared and kept me gently steered. The warmth I didn't know I kept made all my shadows less adept at turning me away from light. It warmed me through the night. The darkness fades, the cold inept by warmth I didn't know I kept. The hours that tried to break me came in quiet tones without a name. They settled on my weary chest and put my strength to test. The room grew darker by the breath, a soft decay, a gentle death of every lie I learned to speak when I was feeling weak. The silence stood its ground and wrapped me all around. The hours that tried to break me could never quite unmake me. They pushed me to the edge of night but couldn't dim my light. The hours that tried to break me, though heavy couldn't shake me. They made me face the aching part but couldn't stop my heart. I felt the weight begin to fall, a quiet grief that filled it all, a shadow creeping up my spine like pain I called not mine. But in that moment's heavy air I found a bravery rare. But though the night was closing in, I wouldn't fold again. The darkness tried to claim the edges of my flame. The hours that tried somehow helped remake me. They cracked my past, they shook my ground, but couldn't keep me bound. The hours that tried to break me failed when they mistook me for someone who was meant to fall. I stood through it all. The dawn arrives, the shadows flee. The hours that tried to break me. After the coldest night had passed, I felt the world exhale at last. A breath of warmth began to rise across my tired eyes. The shadows slipped into the floor, not heavy like the night before. And though the pain was still in place, it softened in its space. The silence held me near without the weight of fear. After the coldest night, the world regained its light. It didn't fix the hurt inside, but let it step aside. After the coldest night, my heart no longer tied. The frost that once refused to melt unraveled what I felt. I stood beside the window frame and whispered softly my own name. The echo didn't shake my bones, it felt like coming home. The sky turned gentle shades of gray, awaiting the approaching day. And in the dim of morning's hue, I found a warmer view. The dawn began to speak in tones forgiving me. After the coldest night, the hurt became less bright. It drifted like a softer rain across familiar pain. After the coldest night, my thoughts were less of fight. They let me breathe without a plea and simply let me be. And maybe dark had taught me well the truths I couldn't tell. It held me still, it made me see the hidden parts of me. After the coldest night, I learned that I could write a gentler ending to my ache, a dawn I didn't fake. After the coldest night, I stepped into the light, not healed, not whole, but more alive, with strength to still survive. The morning hums, the sky turns white. After the coldest night, the dawn that waited for me came without a sound, without a name. It lingered by my window pane like someone easing pain. The light was soft, the clouds were thin. It reached into the night within and slowly drew the dark aside. I thought would never glide. The day approached so slow, as if it somehow knew. The dawn that waited for me held space for who I'd be. It didn't rush the tears I shed, it simply bowed its head. The dawn that waited for me listened silently. It let me rise in my own time without a forced incline. I felt the air begin to warm, a quiet shift, a gentle storm of feelings I had kept behind the corners of my mind. The birds began their timid song, as if unsure, as if not strong yet. Even in their broken tune, they soothed my fading wounds. The world began anew in muted pastel blue. The dawn that waited for me set something in me free, a fragile hope I didn't trust but felt beneath the dust. The dawn that waited for me lit softly through the debris of all the nights I couldn't breathe or find a way to leave. And maybe this is healing slow, not something loud to show, but gentle moments, quiet, born from every patient morn. The dawn that waited for me stayed longer than it should be. It held my shadows in its light and made them less a fight. The dawn that waited for me let morning finally be a place where sorrow doesn't drown but slowly settles down. I breathe again, I rise softly in dawn that waited for me.
When the air began to warm again, it touched the places I'd been in, the frozen hours of my despair that lingered in the air. The morning sun broke through the gray in quiet, understated way, and though the world still held its pain, it didn't feel the same. A sense of something new came drifting into view. When the air began to warm again, it softened where I'd been, it loosened knots inside my chest and gave my pulse a rest. When the air began to warm again, I felt my soul unbend like branches thawing after snow, learning where winds blow. The ground was wet with melting ice, a silent shift, a sacrifice of all the nights that weighed me down in cold and quiet brown. The light spread slowly through the room, undoing echoes of my gloom, and though the ache had not yet passed, it didn't hurt as fast. The world in muted gold was something I could hold. trembling thing. When the air began to warm again, I saw what I defend, a fragile hope, a trembling light returning from the night. And maybe warmth arrives in waves to pull me from the caves. It doesn't rush to chase the dark, but gives a steady spark. When the air began to warm again, it found where I had been, in breaking, bending, holding on through every heavy dawn. When the air began to warm again, I finally let it in, a healing slow, a breath reborn into the gentler morn. The world begins, the sky unchains when the air grows warm again. When the night learned to breathe again, it loosened all the knots within. The darkness softened where I stood in ways I never could. A tender warmth beneath the cold, a glow the shadows couldn't hold. And though the ache still filled the air, it felt like someone cared. The stillness changed its tone and left me less alone. When the night learned to breathe, I found a small reprieve. The heaviness that held my chest let go enough to rest. When the night learned to breathe, it pulled me from beneath the quiet weight I used to bear and made the world feel fair. The stars hung lower in the sky, as if they came to testify that healing doesn't come in fire, but slow like worn desire. The moon leaned softly through my room, a silver hand that swept my gloom. And in that fragile borrowed light, I felt a gentler night. The air began to move in subtle, quiet groove. When the night learned to breathe, it helped my grief unweave. It wrapped my shaken heart in calm, a quiet healing balm. When the night learned to breathe, it gave me space to grieve, but not to drown, not to break down, just stand on softer ground. And maybe nights can change their form from ruthless cold to warm. They hold us where the pain is deep, but rock us into sleep. When the night learned to breathe, my soul began to leave the heavy shadows I once fed inside my aching head. When the night learned to breathe, it whispered, you can be much more than all the hurt you keep. Just rest and let me breathe. The dawn arrives, the night takes leave. When the night learns to breathe.
was a flicker in the fading dark, a trembling tiny spark. It swayed like something barely there, yet warmed the freezing air. The night was thick with silent ache, a heaviness I couldn't shake. But in the quiet, faint and brief, it offered small relief, a glow I didn't trust. Still rose from settling dust, a flicker in the fading dark, lit gently on my heart. It didn't try to chase the pain, just sat with my refrain. A flicker in the fading dark, left just the slightest mark, enough to tell me I'm not through, enough to pull me through. The shadows stretched across the floor, yet felt less sharp than nights before. The windows hummed with hints of dawn, a world not fully gone. I breathed a little deeper then, as if I might begin again. And though the sorrow lingered near, it felt less severe. The air began to bend towards something like a friend. A flicker in the fading dark unveiled a hopeful part, the piece of me I hadn't seen since I was 17. A flicker in the fading dark, though small became a spark, not bright enough to chase the night, but warm enough for light. Maybe healing isn't loud, not bursting through a cloud. It comes in embers, quiet born, before the break of morn. A flicker in the fading dark rewrote my beating heart. It told me shadows fade in time, and dawn will always climb. A flicker in the fading dark became my little mark, a promise whispered soft and true. I won't give up on you, I won't give up on you. The night grows thin, the hour is stark, with flickers in the dark.
A softness after the storm, a hush that felt strangely warm. The sky still carried shades of gray, but pain had slipped away. The wind that once had screamed my name now whispered it without the shame. And though the night still held its mark, it wasn't nearly dark. The quiet changed its sound to something safe and round. The softness after the storm held me in gentle form. It swept the sharpness from my chest and laid my fears to rest. The softness after the storm let something new be born, a fragile peace I'd never known, a place I call my The world felt different near the dawn, like something heavy had withdrawn. The echoes that once filled my head were softer now instead. The shadows didn't cling as chest tight, they bowed beneath the rising light. And in that muted healing space, I found my breathing pace. The air became a guide for what I held inside. The softness after the storm outlasted every norm. It held the tears I used to chase and brushed them from my face. The softness after the storm rebuilt what had been torn. It stitched the pieces of my heart where nights had pulled apart. And maybe storms must crash and break for gentleness to wake. The harshest winds can clear the ground where hope is newly found. The softness after the storm kept my cold heart warm. It whispered through the fading rain, you're safe to feel again. The softness after the storm now shelters me from harm. And though the skies may change once more, I'm stronger than before. The dawn rolls in, the air is warm in softness after storm. The silence that stayed with me tonight was softer than the fading light. It didn't hurt the way before, it didn't shake me to the core. Instead it lingered like a friend who didn't rush or try to mend. It held me in its quiet glow and let my heart beat slow. I breathe without the fear of voices drawing near. The silence that stayed with me was gentle finally. It let the weight inside my chest fall slowly into rest. The silence that stayed with me unlocked what I could see. The softer truths beneath my pain, like whispers in the rain. I sat beside the open door and heard the night a little more. The distant hum of sleeping streets, the rhythm of repeats. The moon slipped through a drifting cloud, not shining bright but not too proud. Its faded glow across my floor revealed I needed more. A peace I'd never known became my quiet tone. The silence that stayed with me let hurting memories breathe. It didn't hide them or erase, just gave them safer space. The silence that stayed with me held truth so tenderly. It let me feel, it let me cry without a need to try. And maybe peace is born in nights that feel forlorn, when nothing speaks and nothing moves, but something gently proves. The silence that stayed with me taught me how to be. It let me stand in my own skin and welcome light again. The silence that stayed with me remains internally a place I walk when storms arrive, a space where I survive. The dawn creeps in, the shadows flee, but silence stays with me.
Took a breath I didn't know I needed, a quiet truth I'd never heeded. It rose from somewhere deep inside, where all my fears reside. The air was cool against my skin, I caught my head and fell within. It spilled into my trembling chest and let my heart beat rest. I didn't plan to find a moment so alive. A breath I didn't know I needed came softly unobstructed. It pulled me back from where I sank and filled the space I lacked. A breath I didn't know I needed let go of what impeded. It whispered I could still begin with quiet strength within. The night was pale, the hours slow, a softness in the afterglow of everything that hurt before, but crushed me nevermore. I felt the world in muted gray, a gentle melancholy sway, a rhythm I had long forgot, returned without a thought. The moment grew so real, it shifted how I feel. A breath I didn't know I needed, return what life depleted. It helped me stand when I was weak, too tired to even speak. A breath I didn't know I needed showed something undefeated, a flicker still inside my chest that fought to give me rest. And maybe life begins where silent hope rescinds, a simple breath, a tiny spark that lights a broken heart. I didn't know I needed, let shadows be conceded. It washed the dust from tired eyes and cleared my cloudy skies. A breath I didn't know I needed made all my doubts receded. And though the night remains the same, I'm not the same by name. The dawn moves slow, the dark unheeded. A breath I didn't know I needed.
the night began to guide what lived beneath my pride. When the quiet became my own, I didn't feel alone. It carried echoes of my past, but held them firm and fast. When the quiet became my own, it softened every tone. It let me breathe without the strain of yesterday's remains. The moon hung low beyond the trees and brushed my worries with its breeze. The shadows weren't a threat tonight, they blended with the light. The floorboards hummed a gentle tune in rhythm with the fading moon, and all the pieces I concealed stood waiting to be healed. The calm became a friend where broken thoughts could mend. When the quiet became my own, my walls were overthrown. It let the nights I used to fear become a place to hear. When the quiet became my own, it gave my heart a home, and even in the darkest hours I felt a bloom of flowers. And maybe peace arrives when nothing else survives. When noise has died and storms have passed and stillness holds you fast. When the quiet became my own, it shaped me to be grown. It taught me how to stand again without resenting pain. When the quiet became my own, my soul was finally sewn together with the light I keep awake inside the deep. The dawn draws near, the night is flown, but quiet stays my own.
There were nights that held my heart so tight, I couldn't move, I couldn't fight. They wrapped around my fragile chest and pressed me into rest. The darkness wasn't harsh or cold, it felt like something gentle. Memory of a warmer time, a whispered fragile rhyme. The silence knew my name and loved me all the same. Nights that held my heart kept all my fears apart. They softened every lonely ache that daylight couldn't break. Nights that held my heart protected every part of who I was beneath the pain until I breathed again. The moon leaned softly through my room, a fading lantern in the gloom. The shadows shifted on the wall like echoes of a call. I closed my eyes to hear the tone of everything I'd faced alone. And in the humming muted air, I found a hidden care. The night became a shield for truths I couldn't yield. Nights that held my heart unwound my broken heart. They let me fall without a sound and picked me from the ground. Nights that held my heart, gave every pain a start. A place to live, a place to rest, a place to be confessed. And maybe healing's grown in moments spent alone, in nights that love without a voice. And let me make a choice. Nights that held my heart, sustained my slow restart. They cradled me like gentle hands in ways no daylight stands. Nights that held my heart will never drift apart. For even when the dawn arrives, their warmth inside survives. The morning glows, the shadows part. From nights that held my heart.
The gentle hours between the dark felt like a slow, forgiving spark. They stretched across my scattered mind like threads of something kind. The world outside was barely there, a floating whisper in the air. And in that hush I found a peace that gave my heart release. The night exhaled a sigh, as if to testify. The gentle hours between revealed what I had seen in fragments lost along the way, in pieces of the day. The gentle hours between unraveled what had been. They let me breathe, they let me stay in soft and tender sway. The walls reflected muted gold, a glow I thought I'd never hold. The silence wasn't sharp this time, it moved in quiet rhyme. My thoughts, once heavy, found their place in corners only night could trace. And though my heart was still in ache, it beat for its own sake. The stillness formed a line between the hurt and mine. The gentle hours between, where sorrow turned serene. They placed my trembling soul to rest against my weary chest. The gentle hours between held everything unseen. They carried hope on fragile wings through small and tender things. And maybe time can spare a little healing there between the dusk and morning start. It mends a fragile heart. The gentle hours between transformed what I had been. They didn't change the world outside, but changed the world inside. The gentle hours between made every thought come clean. And though the dawn will call my name, those hours stay the same. In quiet light, my soul unseen lives in the hours between.
place where my heart could finally rest. A quiet corner in my chest where all the nights I'd fought alone turned into gentle tone. The room was still, the world asleep. The darkness warm, the calm so deep. And every fear I tucked away returned but didn't stay. The shadows softened form, no longer cold or warm. Where my heart could finally rest, it learned what hurt confessed and let the sorrow breathe its fill until it turned to still. Where my heart could finally rest, it felt no need to test. It simply lay in honest peace and let the aching cease. The moonlight drifted down my wall, a slow descending waterfall. It touched the floor in silver hands that drew my scattered strands. And though my thoughts were far from clear, I felt them gently disappear. The weight I carried for so long didn't feel as strong. The night became a bed for all the tears I shed. Where my heart could finally rest, I kept what mattered best. The broken pieces fit again in ways I can't explain. Where my heart could finally rest, I held what I'd suppressed. The dreams I lost, the love I blurred, return without a word. And maybe peace is slow, it comes where shadows go. It settles where the soul is sore and asks for nothing more. Where my heart could finally rest, it beat within my chest, a softened rhythm lost in time, a gentle healing rhyme. Where my heart could finally rest, it found its quiet nest. And though the dawn will rise and roam, I know I'm finally home. The night grows thin, the world is blessed. Where my heart finds rest.
Beneath the midnight air of all the things I didn't dare, they circled slow around my mind like ghosts I left behind. The sky was quiet, heavy blue, a shade that somehow felt like you. It pressed against my aching chest, yet urged my soul to rest. The night became a door to I kept before. Echoes beneath the midnight air carried every whispered prayer. They floated through the hollow rooms and softened all my wounds. Echoes beneath the midnight air unwound the thoughts I couldn't bear. They didn't break, they didn't bend, they stayed until the end. through places I don't go. Echoes beneath the midnight air reminded me of what was fair. Love once lost, a time once held, a truth I never spelled. And maybe echoes stay when words all fade away, to show the heart the gentle cost of all the love it lost. Echoes beneath the midnight air became the way I care for memories I can't forget, for nights I still regret. Echoes beneath the midnight air now linger everywhere, but in their sound I learned to breathe a quiet, soft reprieve. The night grows thin, the world lays bare with echoes in the air.
The room where my sorrow slept tonight was dim and washed with silver light. The moon slipped through the window frame and whispered me by name. The shadows curled along the floor like secrets I had locked before. They reached my feet in tender waves and stirred the thoughts it saves. The night unlatched the seam between my tears and dream. The room where my sorrow slept held everything I kept, every ache I tried to hide, every truth I pushed aside. The room where my sorrow slept was where the memories we wept, they bled into the quiet walls in soft and heavy falls. I felt the stillness wrap around, a fragile, ever-breaking sound, a hum of all the things I lost, of love that came with cost. The air was thick with fading cries of moments seen through clouded eyes, yet somehow in the dim lit space I found a tender grace. The night revealed the part that lived inside my heart. The room where my sorrow slept held shadows I'd accept. They weren't as sharp as yesterday, they simply wished to stay. The room where my sorrow slept was where my heart had crept to learn the weight of letting go of things it couldn't show. And maybe healing rests in places we've repressed, where sorrow sleeps but doesn't fade, just softens when displayed. The room where my sorrow slept kept promises I left. It let me fold the pain with care and leave it resting there. The room where my sorrow slept is where the night has wept, yet in that quiet, gentle room my soul begins to bloom. The dawn breaks slow where shadows kept, the room where sorrow slept. was quiet, trembling, dark and cold. I sat beside an empty chair as though you lingered there. The window sighed a fragile breeze that brushed my fears with gentle ease. And though the silence crushed my throat, it carried every note. The dark became the key to hidden parts of me. The night I let the hurt unfold, my heart was tired and old. It spilled the truths I couldn't speak when I was far too weak. The night I let the hurt unfold, no longer tried to hold the weight I tucked inside my bones through all the breaking zones. A memory slipped across my mind, a trace of love I left behind. It wandered through the hollow space like hands I used to chase. I felt the tears begin to rise, a sadness time could not disguise. Yet when they fell like rain that washed away the strain. The stillness brought to light the wounds beneath my side. The night I let the hurt unfold, I found a piece of gold, a truth that hid beneath the ache, a breath I didn't take. The night I let the hurt unfold was heavy yet controlled. It didn't drown, it didn't break, it simply let me shake. And maybe pain must speak when hearts are worn and weak, to free the truths we hide too deep, to let the shadows sleep. The night I let the hurt unfold, my spirit felt consoled. It showed me I could rise again, beyond what might have been. The night I let the hurt unfold, turned sorrow into bold. And when the dawn began to glow, I felt myself let go. The night breathed slow, stories told. The night I let unfold. Night my shadows learned to speak, was heavy, trembling, worn and weak. They gathered in the corner space behind my quiet face. They whispered truths I tried to hide, the ones I buried deep inside. Their voices rose in muted tone of all I faced alone. Darkness shaped a door to wounds I held before. The night my shadows learned to speak, I felt my heartbeat leak, spill the tears I stored for years through all my hidden fears. The night my shadows learned to speak, my silence turned unique. It carried echoes soft and slow of things I couldn't show. I close my eyes eyes to hear them clear. The syllables of every fear. They told me where the hurt began, where I lost sense of can. They touched the parts of me undone, the parts I always tried to shun. And in their quiet, trembling sound, my truth was finally found. The shadow stood beside the pieces I denied. The night my shadows learned to speak, they made my sorrows meet. They didn't scream, they didn't tear, they only asked me to repair. The night my shadows learned to speak, my breathing found its peak. A rhythm slow, a gentle call, a rise from where I'd fall. And maybe shadows stay to guide the lost away. Not enemies, but fragile guides to what the heart decides. The night my shadows learned to speak became the change I seek. They helped me hold what once was pain and turn it into rain. The night my shadows learned to speak made every weakness sleek. And in the dawn's embracing glow, I let my shadows go. The truth remains in voices weak. The night my shadows spill. There is a quiet room behind my heart, where all my healing learns to start. A place untouched by noise or fear, where I can disappear. The walls aligned with silver dust, collected from the love I trust. And in that room the breaking stops, the heavy weight just drops. The night became a guide to what I kept inside. The quiet room behind my heart held every torn apart. It gathered all the broken years and turned them into tears. The quiet room behind my heart rebuilt what fell apart. It let me breathe in peaceful tone, a place that felt like home. I felt the floor beneath my feet, as steady as a healing beat. The shadows weren't a threat tonight, they blended with the light. I touched the dust upon the shelf, a piece I left of my old self. And though it stung to feel the ache, it didn't make me break. The stillness stitched the seam between my loss and dream. The quiet room behind my heart held memories like art. It framed the pieces raw and small, but didn't judge at all. The quiet room behind my heart let gentleness impart a truth I had refused to face, but now could hold with grace. maybe rooms we hide are where we stay alive. Not places built to shut us in, but places built to begin. The quiet room behind my heart, let hope restart. It let the darkest nights unwind the corners of my mind. The quiet room behind my heart protected every part. And though the dawn will claim the night, the room stays in